Hello, welcome Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 30 Types of Social Movement, let us start the topic Old and New Types of Movements. The plural and transforming nature of social conflict in the contemporary India, the claims and the contestations of different collectivities, the types of stake they articulate, and the nature of the method and the style of their mobilization suggest of two major typological orientations in the themes on movement studies. These orientations help us in identify the different types of social movements in India. The traditions of movement studies in India have been broadly divided into themes of the classical tradition, the neoclassical tradition, and finally into the contemporary new social movement studies tradition. However, by far the most popular and currently widely used classification of themes of movements in types are those of old and new social movements. The first refers to the conventional old themes of peasant, tribe, and industrial workers and other movements. It may be understood that these old themes, as we shall note below, sometimes continue to persist as the main concern of a number of studies on social movement in India. The second orientation, however, reveals the emergence of new types of movement, such as, for example, those on the issue of identity, environment, and collective mobilization of people on the questions relating to gender and social justice, etc. Sometimes these two themes tend to overlap upon each other, blurring the line of their mutual separation. It may be pointed out that the articulation of the conception of the classical old and NSM are found in writings of a large number of European and American scholars have already initiated theoretical discussions and field reporting on the questions on relating to the conceptions of old and new social movements. The classical tradition mostly include the contributions of Western social psychologists such as G. Trade's law of imitation, Glaswell-Lablan's The Crowd, on the collective behavior of crowd, and Rotitius' move. These studies did help in laying down of the tradition of collective behavior studies in social sciences. One may also include William Totter's study of animal behavior in peace and war, which analyzes the behavior of animals in extreme situations. Trotter's study provided a powerful paradigm for similar study of stress and its impact on the human behavior to social science studies on collective behavior. The neoclassical tradition is generally reflected in social movement study based on the functionalist and Marxist theoretical models. The functionalist model treats society as an organized whole consisting of interdependent parts of the constituent unit. The whole is based on value consensus, and it has an ability to resolve the problems of deviance, conflicts, protests, and oppositions by producing appropriate, adjustive, adaptive, and conflict resolving social responses. The functionalist model had, it seems, a strong or organic root. Walter B. Cannon's powerful book, The Wisdom of Body, provided a strong analogical base bestowing upon the society an inherent restorative ability somewhat akin to the self-healing ability of human body. The Marxist model is based on a set of conceptions about the idea of a materialistic conception of social classes. Dialectic as philosophy and methodology in social sciences, mode of production and class formation, dialectics, classes and social structures, materialistic conception of history and class transformation, and materialistic determinism of history. Knowledge and human symbolic expression, including human consciousness, etc., are finally the contemporary or new social movement tradition. In developing the typological of traditions in the social movements themes into old and new types, we on various grounds include the classical and neoclassical studies into the broad categories of old and the contemporary themes. In the categories of new types of social movement study tradition. Each of the above two major types of movement are further divided into subtypes. The subtypes of old movements are divided in peasant movement and agrarian struggles, post-history and peasant consciousness, subterranean study, tribal movements, workers' movements. We are going to present first the social characteristics of old social movements. It will be followed by the characterization of new social movements. The first is social characteristics of old social movements and their subtypes. Old and classical social movements have generally been defined by their class contents. It has been treated as the child of three major socio-economic characteristics: the contemporary world, namely capitalism, industrialism, and materialism. Readers may find discussion on these concepts in publications. Movements are therefore mostly class-bound movements. The term class is required to be explained. Ombes insisted the concept of class need to be defined in terms of social Marxist concept of relations of production. Reduced to its simplest meaning, the term class refers to the division of population into unequal groups. Inequality among the groups emerged because of the differential distribution of economic resources. A minority group happens to get more share in the ownership and control over the economic resources than it actually requires. Others, the majority group, consequently gets less than what they actually need. This faulty system of the distribution of economic resources or property gives birth to the rich and the poor, or the bourgeois and the proletariat classes in the society. The poor, on the account of being on the same boat, develop a sense of class unity among themselves and enter into an antagonistic relationship with the class located above them. This antagonistic relationship between the poor and the rich in course of their dialectical relationship gives rise to what Marxist scholars refers to a class struggle. Most of the studies on peasants and peasant movement or those on trade unionism and the working class movements are some of the examples of the old movement studies based on class model. The class-based old social movements tend to have a strong ideological grounding in the conception of class struggle, class revolution, and in the overthrow of the entire political system of governance and re-establishment of a new social order. Many old social movement studies of Marxist theoretical orientation evasion a radical recasting of society. Phrases such as the peasant war or the agrarian struggle have been in usage to orchestrate the revolutionary ethos of the Marxist construction of peasant conflict in the countryside. The role of violence in such type of collective mobilizations are not ruled out, as all revolutionary struggles have witnessed the use of violence in wide scale in the name of cleaning the system or the purging of the corrupt from the society. In the case of old social movements, it may be noted that adversaries are essentially easily identifiable social groups, a caste or a class. The peasant uprising in the region of Awadh and eastern district of state of Uttar Pradesh have had a clear image and known identity of the opponent. The category of the ruler dominant then, that is the abolition of Talukdari and Zamindari system in 1952 in Uttar Pradesh, who generally belonged to the classes of Talukdar, and in Awadh and the Jamindar in the Jamindari region of eastern UP respectively, were a clearly identifiable group of rural population. Restive and insurgent, the tenants could name them, blame them, and hold them responsible for their misery and the life of subjugation and wretchedness. It was their victimization at the hand of the local landlords that forced the peasant ultimately to get organized and rise to voice their resentments through collective struggle. Likewise, the opponents in Shiv Sena movement in the state of Maharashtra or tribal uprising in Jharkhand region now in the state of Chhattisgarh have had a clear picture of the Dikhu, the outsiders, who were held responsible for the tribal exploitation and social miseries. In addition, it can also be pointed out that opponents or the target of the movements in most of the cases are or were located in the same locality or region. Such were the situations in the cases of the peasants uprising against the jamidars and the talukdars residing in the villages along with the peasants. And finally, the mass society conception of movement generally reflected in the writing of scholars such as Lyanders and Rate. Their attempt of presenting a social diagnosis of the contemporary societies present a pessimistic picture of people's place in society. They emphasize on the growing process of social alienation, anomalies, and fragmentation of social world one lives in. The image of the modern mass society is characterized by the increasing sense of social rootlessness, facelessness, and powerlessness. The individual finds himself in a highly bureaucratized and mechanical social world, finding it difficult as how to orient his relation towards others in different social situations. There is a sense of loss of direction. The resolution of normative basis of social anticipations, expectations produce atomized mass society. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.